Good afternoon. Did everybody have a good lunch? Yeah. Thank you so much for coming to my session. I know there's a lot of awesome sessions going on at the same time, so thank you so much for joining me. Do you guys remember your first computer? Yeah? Do you remember the first time you wrote some code and it actually executed? It was an awesome feeling, right? This was my first computer. Did anyone have one of these? It was a little bit bigger in Europe, but apparently not in this room. So this was the thing that I did, the first thing I did. I wrote this code, and I will be happy to share it with you on GitHub or something. I was so happy when I saw this working. So life is filled with defining moments, moments of realization, if you will. In my case, this was the moment when I realized that I wanted to become a developer. I wanted to do this for a living. And I was about 7 years old back then. I think that many developers like us has these kinds of defining moments. Now, fast forward to build. I believe this was in 2015. I was invited to try the HoloLens for the first time. I was invited into a room. I put on the HoloLens. And the guy said, so walk up to this table. So yes, yeah, I did. An empty table. Yeah, this was a cool demo. But from that table, a 3D model of a house rose up, and I can watch this 3D model from every angle. I was, this is the future. And then it told me that walk over to this computer, and on that screen, it was the same model of that house. And it told me, you can manipulate the house on this screen, and it will happen on the 3D model on the table. So I did. I manipulated the house on the screen, and look and behold, the same thing happened on the 3D model on the table. But I felt that, why is this even connected to computer? Why am I standing here? I want to be here, right? I want to drag the house over here. So he told me, well, drag the mouse pointer to the edge of the screen and continue. The mouse pointer is now floating in mid-air, and I could manipulate the house with the mouse pointer. So there I was, just standing there, blowing my mind. So I ran back to my wife, Jessica. I got to tell you, my mouse pointer popped, floating mid-air. I couldn't even construct full sentences. She was like, what are you talking about? A mouse pointer, mid-air, house. I don't know. Calm down. And this was the moment when I realized that this technology is going to be amazing. That this technology is going to change the world. And that this technology is something that I really, really actually need to work with. I call this the mouse popping moment for me. So what we are going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the HoloLens hardware. Because if we know what the hardware can do and its limitations, we can build awesome experiences. We're going to talk a little bit about Unity, and then we're going to build our first holographic app. And the goal of this session is, well, to show you how you can build your own holographic app. My name is Jim Engström. I work as a developer by day, and I work as a developer by night. I guess I'm a full-time developer or something. I'm a Windows development MVP, and together with my wife, we run a company called Awesome Dev, where we focus on future technologies, like the HoloLens, like bots, like UX, like AI, and stuff like that. We also run a podcast called Coding After Work, so please check that out if you like podcasts. But enough about me. Now, augmented reality means to augment something, to enhance something, to add content that is not there to begin with. There's one type of augmented reality called Pepper's Ghost. It looks kind of like this. This was actually written about 1584. 1584. We know that it was used in 1862. So these technologies are not new. And it worked like this. It was an illuminated room beneath or at the side of the stage, and it was mirrored onto a transparent piece of glass. Now, why am I talking about this? This isn't the HoloLens, right? But the Meta 2, that is one of the most advanced augmented reality devices out there, actually uses the same technology. It has screens, and it's mirrored down into the visor. So technology that was used 1584 is used today. I think that's really cool. But it wasn't until Pokemon Go came out that augmented reality really became mainstream. I mean, my mom knows what augmented reality is. Apple, of course, wanted a piece of the cake. So with iOS 11, they released ARKit. So it was possible to do AR experiences. Google released a type of hardware called Tango, and then later on they released AR Core that can do the same thing. Microsoft, of course, wanted to do the same thing with View Mixed Reality. But I don't believe that AR is going to be useful, is going to actually change the world when it's through a screen. Real world into a camera, into a screen, into my eyes. You lose the 3D aspects and stuff like that. So let's dive into HoloLens hardware. The HoloLens is the world's first and so far only holographic computer. It's untethered. That means that it doesn't have any cables. All the hardware is actually confined into the visor. I'm a little bit curious, how many of you have tried the HoloLens before? Not that many. And of you who have tried it before, how many have access to one? About the same, all right. So the weakness here is, of course, that the batteries are confined into this as well. So it has about 2 to 3 hours officially battery time. I would say it's actually like 3 or 4 hours. It's really, really good battery time, depending on what you're actually doing, of course. The other downside of this is that it's a mobile device. It doesn't have a full-on CPU in there. It wouldn't fit, basically. The good thing is that, again, it's untethered. So you can walk about everywhere. They're using something called world scale. So you can be in any room. You don't have to be in just a little square. It's a Windows 10 machine. So that means that it can run Windows 10 apps, as well as these cute 3D elephant apps. Now, the really fun things comes with the tracking. So it uses environmental sensing cameras, 4 of them, that continuously scans the environment and takes all of this data together with depth camera, with gyro, accelerometer and stuff like that, which is confined in something called the IMU, the inertial measurement unit. So all of this data is pushed into the holographic processor, the HPU. And what actually comes out is a position in the room. So they know where the wall is. If you move from the wall, it's going to detect that and make sure that the holograms are stable. And they are. The tracking is amazing. The lenses, first of all, they're transparent. So you see the real world with your real eyes, with your own eyes, I should say. It has layers that it's going to bounce the light in the lenses into your eyes. So, for example, this table isn't white per se. It's how it reflects light that makes me perceive it as white. So the HoloLens is going to bounce light into the lenses. So if this was a holographic table, it would actually make the light bounce off into my eyes. Now, the bad part of this is that it could get a little bit trails if you move very, very fast, or if you move the 3D objects very, very fast. You will get a little bit of trailing. The easy thing to do is, of course, don't make the stuff move that fast. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the field of view. How many have heard that the field of view is kind of bad? Not that many. Awesome. Then it's not. I'm not going to put thoughts in your head. But the real view is kind of like this. It's going to cut the view on the sides. It's going to cut the view on the top, on the bottom. And the solution is, of course, make the hologram smaller. We've demoed this for about 3,000 people by now, and it's actually true. And about 70% says, we didn't even notice the field of view. We noticed robots coming at us from the wall. That was our focus. 30% says that, yeah, the field of view is a little bit small. Some of them even says that, well, we're waiting for the next one. But the important thing is that so far, I haven't met someone that has one, that has tried this for more than like 15 minutes. That says that this is a problem, because you adapt. Oh, I can't see the whole hologram. Let's take a step back. Oh, now I can see it. For us who has glasses, well, we're used to not seeing everything. It has full surround sound. So it has something called HRTF sound, head-related transfer function. So what it is that there are a bunch of algorithms that how sound works. So for example, if something comes from my right here, it's going to go into this ear, it's going to bounce around, and it's going to go into my left ear. All these algorithms are put into the HRTF specs. So the speakers actually is mounted just above your ears, and you will get a full 360 degrees sound. Up and down, left to right. It's awesome. Now, Microsoft has partnered with a bunch of different manufacturers. Samsung, Lenovo, HP, Asus, Acer, and a lot more. So they've taken this tracking technology and put them into what they call mixed reality headsets, but basically it's VR headsets. Really, really awesome. So if you have, and they're not as expensive as the top brands, if you will. So what can we use to develop? Well, we can do this with Direct 3D. We can do this with Holo.js. So for those who like JavaScript, you can actually do HoloLens apps. You can do this with Unreal. And I have a question mark there because it's not officially supported, but there are project templates that you can actually use. You can use Orho Sharp, so with C#, and you can use Unity. About 70% of all the apps in the Microsoft Store is actually made, for the HoloLens, I should say, is actually made with Unity. So how many of you have seen Unity before? How many are experts Unity? Oh, it's always like, oh, quick, no, I'm not an expert either. But so this is Unity. So this is the toolbar. So here you can change the size, you can move objects around. You have the scene, where you have basically your 3D scene, where you have all your 3D objects. You have the hierarchy. So this is the hierarchy of all the objects in your scene. You have the project templates or pane, I should say, where you have all the files in your project. And then you have the inspector, which is basically properties in Visual Studio for those who use Visual Studio. There are 5 things in the HoloLens that are specific for the HoloLens. 5 things that you should implement if you're doing an HoloLens experience. The first one is gaze. We have gestures, voice, sound, and then we have spatial mapping. And we will go through all of these and implement them in our app. So gaze is where you're looking. Gaze is often used like for eye tracking. This is not eye tracking. This is head tracking. So this is an array from your head pointing, and if you move your head, it's going to follow you. It's as simple as that. We have air tap. So this is gestures. So air tap is like this. You hold your finger. Actually, we should stand like this. You hold your finger up like this. You go down and you're up again. Now, this doesn't seem that hard, right? But we've seen them all. We've seen the angry duck. We've seen the Pac-Man. And my favorite is when you do like this. All the other fingers that I just told you. Apparently really, really hard. Then we have the bloom effect, so the bloom gesture. So you hold your hand like this and you open it. And this is the start menu. You get this. You can show the start menu, hide the start menu, quit the app, and stuff like that. It also has a clicker, so this little small guy. This actually has a gyro in it, so you can scroll, you can pan with it as well. You can also connect a gamepad. It needs to be the Xbox One S one, because that's the one that has Bluetooth. So let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can actually make this work. So first thing we need is Mixed Reality Toolkit. A Mixed Reality Toolkit is an open source project by Microsoft, but they take pull requests. It's a really, really active project. I do this kind of talk quite a lot, and almost every time I need to rewrite my demos in a good way, because they make things simpler. So let's take a look at how we can implement gaze and air tap. So here we have Unity. I've just created a new scene. So what we want to do is we're going to create a cube. Let's see. We're going to create 3D object cube. We're going to change the position. We're going to change it to 2 meters in. Going to put it. Going to make it a little bit smaller. So everything in Unity is meters. So this is going to be 30 centimeters. And we're also going to grab a material and put it on the cube. So now we have a blue box. For those who are Doctor Who fans, blue box. Now, this is how you do a normal 3D object in Unity. Now we need to do this in mixed reality. So what we do is we go into, what I have done is I have added the Holo Toolkit. It's named Holo Toolkit. It was the old name, but the folder still is named Holo Toolkit. But this is a mixed reality toolkit. And what we get is a mixed reality toolkit menu. So what we can do is that we can say, apply mixed reality project settings. Now, I've already done that. So what we want to do, we want to target the Windows Universal UVP. We want to enable XR, which is basically virtual or augmented reality. We have some .NET scripting backend. It's going to go away soon, but for demo purposes, we're going to keep that. And we're going to set default spatial mapping layer. As I said, I already done that. So what we want to do next is apply mixed reality scene settings. So what this is going to do, it's going to move the camera to position 000. 000 is going to be where my head is at. So this is the origin. It's going to add some input managers. It's going to add a default cursor and update world space canvases, but we won't go into that. So when I pressed apply, what it did was it removed the camera it had in the scene, replaced it with a mixed reality camera. It moved it to 0, 0, 0. So from my perspective, this cube is now 0, 0, so where my head is at, and 2 meters in front of me. So wherever I start the app, it's going to be where my head is at and 2 meters in front of me. So if I start this, don't want to start that one. Go away. There we go. So if I move with my arrow keys, you can see that well, it moves. If I press Shift, the little hand lights up, and this will emulate the air taps. So if I click at the same time, it's going to emulate the air taps. So let's see this in action. I have a couple of scripts that I'm going to just grab the cube gaze handler, and I'm going to add the cube select handler. So these are scripts that I've written. Let's see, let's start Visual Studio. And for those who haven't used Unity before, you can see it's really, really simple. You can just grab the script, add it to the cube, and it's automatically added there. So in this case, we have the cube select handler. So what this is going to do, this is just a script that I've written. I said that I want to implement the I input click handler. And it's going to give me the on input clicked event. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the game object. So that's the game object that this script is attached to. In our case, the cube. And I want it to get the component, the mesh renderer, I want to change the material's color to green. We also had the gaze handler. It's going to do basically the same thing. It's going to implement the eye focusable. I'm going to say at start, I want to save the color. So save the color at start. On focus enter, so when I look at it, I want it to turn red. And when I look away, I want it to turn back to its original color. So let's see if I'm lying. It's red when I'm looking at it. When I look away, it's blue. And if I press Shift and click, it's going to turn green. I'm colorblind, apparently. So let's go back. So with these simple steps, we actually added gaze, so we can look and interact with objects, and we added some kind of interaction. And what we did was we added a cube, we changed the size, and we added the texture to it. And we downloaded the Holo Toolkit. Well, we didn't do that, but I did that in preparations. We applied the project settings, we applied the scene settings, and we created a script, we saw a script for eye focusable and eye input click handler. And we added those scripts to a object. Now, I mentioned that audio was very important. Voice is very important as well. And since this is a Windows 10 machine, Cortana is actually built in. So adding these kinds of things, instead of having buttons or sliders or anything in your UI, just be able to interact with whatever you're interacting with your voice is really, really important. So let's take a look at what it takes to implement that. So we're going to go into Unity. We're going to create a, apparently it's frozen. Snap out of it. There we go. We're going to create an empty game object. We're going to name it managers. We're going to add a component. We're going to add a speech input source. So the speech input source is going to capture all the voice commands. So this is where you specify all the voice command that you want your app to handle. So in our case, I want it to handle a voice command, drop cube. And I'm going to add a 0, maybe. So I can actually trigger it by hand as well. And then on the cube, we're going to add another component called the speech input handler. Now this script is going to handle the voice commands. And all of these things are available in the Mixed Reality Toolkit. So I can just go plus. I now have my drop cube command to choose from. I can select drop cube. I'm going to drag in cube drop into my cube. I'm going to go through it in just a second. And I'm going to grab that cube there. So what I'm saying that when the drop cube command is triggered, I want it to be on my cube. I want to trigger the cube drop script and the drop cube method. Let's go to Visual Studio, cube drop. So what this is actually doing is rigid body is what makes our object react to gravity. So I'm going to check, do we have a rigid body? If we don't have a rigid body, add one. If we do have one, wake it up. And I also have added a reset key, so I can press R, and I'm going to put the rigid body to sleep, and I'm going to put it back to its original position. So let's see if this works. This is always exciting. There we go. Drop cube. And it dropped. Let's go back. I mean, with these few steps, we already implemented voice commands in our app. So what we did, we added the input source. We added the keyword drop cube. We added the component speech input handler to the cube. We added the drop cube script, and we mapped a couple of keywords to the methods. And that's it. So let's take a look at audio. Now I'm actually not going to show you the finished product with the audio, but let's go in here. So what you do is, for audio, you need to make sure that in Edit, Project Setting, and Audio, that you have the Spatializer plugin set to MS HRTF Spatializer. That makes all the sounds sound amazing, like in 3D and stuff. So what we can do is we go to the cube. And this is one of my favorite features. As you can see, in the cube, there's no audio source. So if I add this script that is called cube Cube Audio. I actually get an audio source right there. So for those who haven't used Unity before, this is the awesome attribute require component. So what I'm saying in this script, that for this script to run, I need to have an audio source. I love this. I love how easy this makes it to create our own scripts. So what this is actually doing is on trigger enter. So when this is triggered, for some reason the collider gets triggered, I'm going to get the audio source and I'm going to play the sound. I'm just going to do that once. So let's see. What I also need to do is to add a sound to the audio clip. Now, I don't have sound on this computer, so that's why you won't see it go boom. I could make the sound effects by voice if you would like, but so what we did was we talked about the required component. I love that writing scripts that you need specific components for that script. You can actually make that just happen automatically. I forgot one thing. What you also need to do is you need to go into your audio source and actually set the spatialize checkbox. We make sure that project settings audio actually had MS HRTF spatializer. Now, next up we have spatial mapping. And one example that does this really, really well is Lowe's Kitchen. Have anyone seen the demos? Some of you? Awesome. So Lowe's Kitchen uses Pinterest. So what you do is you pin your awesome kitchens at home. You say that this kitchen, that kitchen. Doesn't have to be Lowe's. Then you go to Lowe's and say, good day, I would like to buy a kitchen. And they say, oh, right, you're welcome. What's your Pinterest account? So you give them their Pinterest account, and they're going to use Azure Cognitive Services to analyze these pictures, to find the best kitchen matching your preferences in the Lowe's catalog. And then they're going to give you a HoloLens. You can put on the HoloLens, and you can actually walk around in your kitchen. Can I reach that top shelf? And the really, really cool thing is that they are analyzing the feedback they get. So if you're looking at the doorknob and you say, this is ugly, I don't like this at all, they will get that feedback into their system. They know what you're looking at. So they can say, for the next catalog, they can remove that doorknob. I think this is really, really awesome project. Case Western Reserve University uses this to teach anatomy. And if you come to our session tomorrow, we're going to show you some other examples that they're actually doing really, really cool stuff. Being from Sweden, I need to talk about Volvo, right? So Volvo uses this in their flagship stores. So you can actually check out your car, you can turn it around, you can see how it works, you can see it in different colors, different things. Also an awesome demo. NASA uses this for something called Mission to Mars. It's kind of a cool demo, but it's more of a VR experience. So this is also important to take with you. Think about what is the best device for your experience. In this case, you should stand on Mars. You've been transported onto Mars. That is not an augmented reality experience. That's a virtual experience. RoboRaid uses this for in their game as well for HoloLens. In that game, you're scanning the room, and robots are actually busting through the walls, flying at you, and you need to duck, you need to shoot back. Really good example of how these technologies work. Now, when I got the HoloLens home the first time, I tried this game. Anyone tried Fragments? Even those who have a HoloLens. Oh my God, you need to go home right after this and try it. So in this game, you put on a HoloLens, and you can see fragments of a little boy that has been kidnapped. You can see fragments of his memories. And he's sitting down on the floor, crying, and you try to figure out where is this boy? You're trying to find clues, like a plane ticket or a metro ticket. And you can see, oh, it's this ticket is in Los Angeles. So you narrow it down until you find where this little boy is. And you look up in your ceiling and you realize that there's a hole in your ceiling. Holographic raindrops actually falling down from this hole, building puddles on your coffee table. There's a rat running on the floor, and at one point in this game, you hear a voice from your right side. You turn around, and one of the game characters, is sitting in your couch. Lean back, just as you do in a couch. What? Again. And the really, really cool part is that all of these things are available in the Mixed Reality Toolkit. So the guys that did this game put all the things that they did, figuring out what is a table, what is a couch, and put it back into Mixed Reality Toolkit. Let's see what it takes to implement that. Now, we're not going to drag any couch in here, though. So what you do is that you go into Mixed Reality Toolkit, you select Configure, Mixed Reality Scene Settings, and add spatial mapping prefab. And I'm done. That's all that it takes. So let's see this, if we can actually see this application in action. Let's switch over to this one. Needed to boot. See if this one is on. Come on. It usually takes a couple of minutes. I'm sorry. Let's see, it's connected. It should be operational. I tried this just before the session, and it actually worked really, really well. Let me see if... It is the same IP. Come on. There we go. So what we do is we go into the Start menu. Oops. Start menu. We launch this. So this is the application we just created. Don't worry, it does take time. There we go. So we have the cube, approximately 2 meters from me. I can move around the cube, and for some reason it thought that I just told it to drop. Now it's kind of good that I actually have a reset command, right? There we go. And you can see it just land on the floor. That's pretty amazing. With just these few lines of code, right? I'm actually going to show you, I did a backup video just in case. That I'm just going to show that one. So this, here I put the cube over these cubes. So if I drop it here, look what happens with the cube. Soon. It actually hits and rolls off these cubes because it scanned their environment. So what we did was we added the spatial mapping prefab. That's it. One of my things that a couple of years ago, I decided to see if I could create a ZX Spectrum emulator. That was the computer you saw in the beginning. So all my demos I've done, every new kinds of technology, I've taken that emulator and see if I can actually fit it into to that experience. So this is a short video of my ZX Spectrum running on a HoloLens. So the TV is a 3D object, and the emulator is running, and I actually have a gamepad that I'm controlling the astronaut with. You can see this all day, right? Or it's just me? So I want to leave you with a quote from Terminator 2. The future isn't set. There is no fate but what we make for ourselves. And that's where we are right now. The future of augmented or virtual or whatever reality you want is not set. We're creating this as we go right now. So you've seen a couple of experiences that I've shown you that other people are doing. So let's create new experience together. Or, in my case, just reliving the past with the technology of the future. So please share your mouse-popping moments with me. And I believe that in a not-so-distant future, someone will start to talk kind of like this one, but with the question, do you remember your first holographic computer? Thank you so much.